I think, first of all, it's a place that fosters courage, that fosters bravery. 60 seconds of bravery is what makes the difference.
That practice, that ability to give our kids that opportunity to make believe, how could that not be a vital thing?
We are saying trust the young person. We are saying trust their life.
This isn't just about a room or particular people in a room. This is about a way of walking through life, a way of rehearsing to be in life, which is far bigger than this room.
All right. So I'm going to start with asking a couple of questions about these two areas that I think I mentioned a long time ago that came up in my last study, the idea of care and the idea of hope.
Okay.
We found something in the quantitative research we've done in 5 countries across the globe. There's a strong positive correlation between age and the diminishment of hope. For young people, getting older means losing hope. That is a very disturbing finding. Drama has always been considered a frill in educational systems, not the basics. And it is usually the first thing to be cut in times of shrinking budgets. By association, drama students are often thought to be not academic, not serious. But what if the drama classroom is one of the most critically important spaces available to young people across the globe in these times? What if it's a workshop for hope? So formally, I've been researching drama classrooms for over 20 years. And if you tack on the 10 years before that research life, I was 10 years a high school drama teacher. So I guess that means 30 years. I can't believe you made me say that. Ethnographic research is moving into spaces in their everydayness, being a cultural insider to a space, to understand how that space operates, how it feels for the people in that space, what structures govern that space. And through my ethnographic research in many spaces in which young people gather, in classrooms, in after-school programs, in community settings, I keep learning and relearning that young people do not feel heard. I think it's fair to say we're living in pretty bad news times, and young people are exposed daily to an onslaught of various crises in their midst and in the worlds further away from them. The birth of the Radical Hope Project was really to build upon whether there was validity and rigor in my sense of what was going on in the microcosm of a drama classroom.
Here are these young people realizing what's at stake and standing up, finding a voice, going for it, in quite huge ways.
I don't think it's any accident that the activists that emerged from the Parkland shooting were drama kids. That, to me, makes perfect sense in this world. That young people who in the classroom are being told, your voice matters, your life matters, you know the world in your own way, that is an empowered youth that can then go and change their community.
The drama classroom can be a rehearsal space for trying out, first of all, that voice, accessing that voice, and then actually playing out the self in a new way, in a way that might have the courage or capacity or risk-taking to stand up and say, you need to hear me because I am thinking otherwise, I am acting otherwise, and I need a movement around this idea.
The amount of people who were coming up to me and saying that was such a powerful story. I had the gym teacher, the English teacher, my law teacher, I had like everybody, my dad was in tears, my mom was in tears.
Working with our international collaborators in Canada, England, Greece, Taiwan, and India, the Radical Hope Project sought to understand, through young people's own words, relationships, and storytelling, how they are faring in these increasingly divisive times, and how they are becoming citizens. I've always argued that young people are the experts of their own experience, and that drama classrooms all over the world are providing rare windows onto their lives, struggles, and dreams. And each of our international sites had something to teach us.
Extraordinary timing that we should meet them the morning after Brexit, and that, in fact, you would think they might be excited to show these, these researchers from Canada their drama work, but no, in fact, we sat down in the circle and they needed to talk Brexit out. They needed to talk about their worries, their anxieties. When we were in Coventry, Kathleen said something about a pedagogy of the invitation. And I feel like the drama circle is a place of invitation, to extend invitations, to receive invitations. In a circle facing each other, I felt like the youth had an unbelievable capacity to listen, to reach, even though they were very clearly, some of them, on different sides of an important issue. And it was with words, but it was also with their bodies, and that was really striking.
Suddenly and newly, their world was seeming to disintegrate in front of them. And their impulse in that circle was to say, we have to do something. And why aren't they listening to us? Why can't we have a voice in this? We have feelings about this.
I think what's really important to understand is that young people in this context have only known this culture of austerity. So they have grown up in a Greece that is under a lot of pressure to correct their economic ways, to pay back massive amounts of debt. There's a real language of failure. We were witnessing young people taking big risks. We were seeing young people that were defying that narrative of failure, going, you know what, I'm not going to internalize that fear, that aversion to risk. I'm going to try to tell a story that I've maybe not told before. I will try a way of working that perhaps is unfamiliar to me.
It's like therapy. It's like a therapeutic exercise. What if you could be your best self? What would that look like? What would happen if you made this mistake and people didn't judge you?
Young people can defy some of these big cultural stories, these big narratives that are trying to sort of fit them into a box or fit them into a way of operating. And they were freeing themselves, they were liberating themselves and using forms of play and playmaking to mobilize their own wants, their own dreams, their own creativity.
I think one of the amazing things we discovered when we went to Tainan was that a lot of the young people in that classroom were engaged in all kinds of youth political movements outside the classroom. So they wanted to carve out their own path between their own aspirations, their desire, their new dreams, and these traditions that they respected and valued and didn't want to be at odds with.
So the drama classroom is a place where you can celebrate who you are, because actually that's the content of the class, what you can bring to it, what your particular instrument, insight brings to that.
And in their storytelling, when we would sit in on rehearsals, we would see these incredible stories of this contemporary moment, whether it was a young person struggling with their sexuality, or questions of stigmatization of their families because of the socioeconomic conditions in which they're living. telling those stories collectively with their peers and saying, these are our concerns, and we feel like our stories, if we put them out into the world, people may hear them.
One of our 5 sites is called, we call it Regal Heights. And Regal Heights is an interesting microcosm of a bunch of elements that are happening in Toronto.
I think at the base of everything is community and how you take care of each other. And the drama classroom is a place where community is happening.
So the drama class does something cool and kind of unexpected. So we tend to think of the drama class as a place where you go and you learn to express yourself, which of course is true, you do. But that's not the helpful bit for students as they get older. The helpful bit is that it becomes a place where they learn instead to collaborate. They learn to listen better and more deeply to each other. They learn to step back and be part of the care process. And one of the reasons I think that's super important is because if you think about this day of social media, and I've got 2 kids who are teenagers, and I am learning this deeper and deeper. This seems like an exciting opportunity, and sometimes it is, but it's also an oppressive taskmaster. You must project yourself constantly into the world all of the time. And it's oppressive, and it's often lonely. So this becomes the antidote to that. You aren't alone. You don't need to build alone. You don't need to just feature your own story all the time. You can do this with other people. And so these students, when they realize they can build something better spaces, better relationships. Sorry, I've got teenagers, so that makes it move me. When they realize they can do something better here, they go, why can't I do something better out there too? And for me, that's one of the key stories. That's one of the key takeaways of hope. Why does drama give hope? Because it helps us realize we can build something better together.
So Prerna Girls School is our Lucknow, India site. It is located in Uttar Pradesh, which is the most populous state in India. You only have to look at the way in which Urvashi Sani, the CEO and the founder of Prerna Girls School, works to center drama as a way for the young women to make meaning of their lives.
I remember reading something in Urvashi's book about a colleague of hers telling her that anger is a revolutionary emotion. And so I feel like the acts, the plays, the improvisations made safe and acceptable the exercising and expressing of indignation.
I went from zero to impress because this was possibly the most revolutionary pedagogy that I had come across in the education landscape. Drama as a pedagogy combined with a critical feminist lens allowed the girls and potentially all students to see themselves as full human beings with rights. And I found that drama first explored how the girls felt about being considered a burden. Then it validated those feelings, which meant that their tears suddenly had a name. With that dawning realization came solidarity. And with that solidarity came the strength and an ability to imagine a change. Once they imagined the change, drama allowed them to rehearse the change without any fear of backlash. And this in turn emboldened them to actually enact change. The girls in Prerna, I found were, not for them was, to be demure and their eyes cast down and their bodies crunched in. They were bold, they were unflinching, their gaze was steady, their voices were strong. And this whole culture of hope.
I've been working as a documentary theater maker for the last 12 years. What I was trying to do with Towards Youth, a play on radical hope, which is the output or the outcome with this project, my goal was to find some way to help uninitiated audiences feel the ideas of the research, to get them to care, to get them to go, you know what, this matters.
So being an actor and playing young people, I don't know, I feel like I was able to reclaim a sense of myself, really, and the parts of me that are strong. There's a moment in the play where my character, they're basically talking about the silencing of black boys within the classroom. And my character, Malachi, I guess, responds to the text in dance. Another medium, I find, can express the pain of what that is for these young people, these black boys who are trying to make it but can't.
It's not going to blend into what you already think you know.
What inspired me most about Towards Youth was the fact that it looked like drama as a pedagogy was perhaps coming out of the fringe and had the potential to turn into a movement, which I would very much like to see.
If there was a way to reveal to broader publics what we as researchers were receiving in the drama classrooms, and to do that dramatically, to do that artistically, to do that through theater's unique modes of communication, then that's what I wanted to do. Drama gives young people a rehearsal space to develop care for self and others. It shores up hope. It is a start. It whets an appetite for the hard work it takes to understand and to value difference and make community. And our democracy, imperiled as it is, now depends on our ability to hear young people and on our collective capacity to move forward differently.
So, human beings, in order to stay hopeful, they often will try to take on the pattern that's going to fit the prevailing winds that they experienced in their lives. But what makes it radical hope is because maybe I'm not going to attend to the prevailing winds. Maybe there are quieter winds, or maybe there are better winds than the big ones out there. And what if I pattern myself off of that instead?
And we've seen it in what is happening in India at Prerna. We see it with all the climate change activism that is happening right now. We're seeing it to the extent, we're seeing it around young people taking on governments that are cutting the things that matter to them. These are young people that are finding their voice, and they're saying, no, I'm not going to conform. I'm going to ask the world to change for me. And not only will it benefit me, it will benefit all of us.
Students are seen as failing school. Schools are not seen as failing students. And I feel like the kind of learning that teachers would get out of a drama pedagogy would help them not only build really strong relations with their students, but also with the communities in which they teach.
It's more about moving beyond internalizing the oppressor. It's really about internalizing the freer, really going beyond a recognition and a naming into how do we systematically start to change our circumstances.
Traveling the world and finding crisis after crisis does not make one feel there is much time. Listening to the news that we have every day does not make us feel like we have the luxury of time. And what I realized in the caring processes of this research and this playmaking was that we have time, we need time, and we have to use time as a resource. We have to take time. And the young people are telling us, of course there's time. Old people, step up. It's time, now is time. So we do have time. That's what I want people to take away, that there is time to reorient yourself, to listen anew, and to act on what you hear.